Hey everyone, welcome back to the Redlands Rundown, the official podcast of Redlands Community College, where we're committed to helping our students find success in the classroom, in their careers, and with everything in between. Today, back by popular demand, we have Mr. Brady Leck, an advisor in our admissions office, and I'm really excited about this episode, and I think it's timed perfectly because fall enrollment is getting ready to open in just a few days, and so Brady's going to join us to talk to us a little bit about how we can prepare for that, some things that we need to know. So, Brady, I'll let you introduce yourself real quickly for those that missed you when you were on last time.
So my name is Brady. I'm one of the advisors in the admissions office. I do regular enrollment for students who are here after high school, and I also do concurrent enrollment, which I know we'll touch on also. So making sure students are enrolled in the right classes, making sure they're on track to graduate in the certain amount of time that they want, if they want to transfer to a school, stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah. And you're also a Redlands alum.
I am. Yeah.
So you bring that kind of experience to where you can relate to students about, you know, your time in classes and with the professors and everything. And I think that's really valuable from an advising standpoint. Awesome. Okay. So like I mentioned, fall enrollment's getting ready to open. So your office is getting ready to be swarmed.
Yes.
But excuse me, why is it so important for students to start preparing now instead of waiting till the middle or end of the summer?
Well, I really think it's important. Like, if you are a first-time student, like, it's so important to get into the classes you want, especially with such a big change coming. So you can plan out if you want to work. You know, if you work Tuesdays and Thursdays, you plan classes around that. And even if you're returning, making sure that you're in the classes that you need to graduate before they're full. So even if you're in a different spot, different work scenario, it's really important for you to do it early and make sure all your classes are in on time.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point about our classing schedule. Sometimes high school students that are coming in don't understand like the schedule that we run on. So can you explain that just a little bit more, how classes meet?
Yeah. So we have classes on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays typically. And we'll have a couple hybrid classes that meet once a week. But they're typically an hour and 15 minutes. And then if you do it early enough, you can plan those where they're one after another. So if you end up working Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can plan your classes Mondays and Wednesdays, or online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's nice. We have a little bit more flexibility on scheduling. I mean, we have a lot of students that either are on competitive teams or have jobs and are scheduling around, you know, what they have going on in their lives. And no classes on Fridays, which is awesome, actually. So, okay, so you kind of hinted to this a little bit. What happens if a student waits too long to enroll?
So if they wait too long, they may not get to the classes that they need to graduate. Unfortunately, I've run into that a couple of times where students wait to the last minute and they may only need 2 classes and both of them are full. So if they get in early, make sure that there's room in the classes, make sure there's no issues getting into them, and no issues graduating, making sure taking classes on the right schedule, stuff like that.
Yeah, so early bird gets the worm.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So one of the options that students have to prepare for their upcoming semesters is to meet with their advisors, right? So can you explain how to schedule an appointment and how an advising appointment is really helpful for students?
Yeah, so they can go on our website. I believe it's under the admissions tab. You can schedule a appointment with your advisor, either virtual or in person. You can also do the application part if you just are curious about what you need or how to do it, or advising. So we have students that will book appointments, whether they've been accepted or not, or students that have been here for a year and a half and need help picking classes. And it's really important to get a feel for what you have left, maybe what you haven't completed at all, or even first-time students who just need help understanding what's about to happen and bring it down for them. So that way they have a better understanding of what's ahead, what they're going to do, and things like that.
Awesome. Another question that I have, do you guys pick all the classes for the students, or do they have some responsibility picking their own classes?
It's kind of a mix. So they'll have responsibility in picking their own. But we will also tell them, you know, it'd be better if you took this class before because it's a prerequisite for another class. Maybe knocking out English and math first. That's one thing that we'll recommend. So things like that. But it will also be on them to make sure I want to take the right classes if they're not coming and meeting with us. But then again, if they're coming to meet with us, then we'll tell them that when whether it's virtual or in person.
Yeah. And if you're not in person with an advisor and you're wondering what the typical plan of study looks like, those are available on our website too, aren't they, underneath the different degrees?
And if you can't find it, we can always find it too.
Yeah. Awesome. So who would you recommend makes an advising appointment right now?
I would definitely say first-time freshmen. They're planning on coming here after they graduate high school. I think we are going to try and make it mandatory for most of them to come see us. We obviously know that not everyone can make it, but we really like them to come out so we can explain their whole degree path. Explain, you should walk down this route, what do you want to do for career, things like that. But even we have students who only have a few classes to graduate, and they want to come want to make sure they're set to graduate.
Yeah.
So even all students can do it. But even first-time freshmen, I would say, are the biggest ones that should come to it.
Awesome. Okay. So you've talked about these two different groups a couple of times, and I want to talk about them a little bit more. So we've got incoming freshmen versus our returning students. They're both in a little bit of different places, but both need to be getting ready also, especially with fall enrollment opening up. So we've talked a little bit about our incoming freshmen. What other top things do those new students need to be doing? We haven't really talked in depth a lot about the application process. Will you go over that?
Yeah. So you can apply online. We'll need your high school transcript. And then we'll also need a college transcript if you took any concurrent classes. If you apply now, you'll get in before enrollment starts. That way, when it does start, we can get you all the classes that you prefer. And it's just overall better to apply now than to wait to the last minute. Because as we get to the last minute, the first part of August, last part of July, we're getting busy at our office and things will take longer, unfortunately. So that's where I would recommend students is applying now if you know you're coming here and getting that done and making sure all your ducks on a row before you get here.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing is our offices are closed on Fridays in the summers. So one last day that you can come in and meet with us. I want you also to touch on orientation. I don't know that the sign up is available yet, but can you talk about what that looks like?
Yeah. So I think it's typically the Saturday before the first day of school. Parents are welcome and we'll do a big presentation welcoming them, telling them a little bit about the campus. We'll take a nice group photo, then we'll do demonstrations telling them about the campus. You can get your ID, your parking pass, get you all set up for the semester before it starts. That way when first day of schools happen, you're just worrying about your classes. You don't have to worry about all the extra stuff that you may have to do.
Yeah, I love orientation day. The vibes are always really high and everyone's really excited to be back on campus, and it's a good time for our students to get to meet and mingle with each other a little bit, and there's a lot of valuable information that we go over. And then typically after orientation, a few of the key offices are open, right? Yeah. Admissions will be open. I think financial aid, maybe the registrar. So a couple offices, if you've got some final things you need to do right before classes start, then you can go visit with our different offices. One thing I also want to touch on, and I know that we're past the official deadline for scholarship applications, but if we have any students that are new, incoming, or even returning students still that haven't applied, our tuition waivers, those are still open and those stay open year round. So if you are looking for some scholarship opportunities, you can apply for either of those. And then financial aid. If you ever have questions about FAFSA or any other kind of federal aid, I would encourage you to stop by and talk with Paris or Mackenzie in our financial aid office. They're super, super helpful. And that's both for incoming freshmen and returning students. All of those resources are. So I just wanted to mention that really quickly. So now I want to transition to the returning students and focus on them just a little bit more. What are some things that they need to be thinking about right now?
So with the returning students, they really need to be making sure that, again, they're getting into the correct classes they need, but also doing it early enough that they can get the classes in terms of time of day, certain days. Like you mentioned earlier, if they're on a sports team or, a club, they need to make sure they're on certain days. And they need to make sure they're on track to graduate because you only have 2 semesters left. So making sure that you're coming and speaking with us about what order do I pick my classes? Do I need to take this one first, this one last? How does that work? So they really need to be focusing on what classes come first and getting that over fast. And they can always come and talk to us even now without enrollment being open. So that's one big thing that I would push for the returning students.
Okay, awesome. Another thing that I kind of put on here to make a note of was checking for holds. Sometimes that's something that gets in the way of our students enrolling, and that can make that kind of a lengthy thing. So can you talk about a few different holds that some students have sometimes?
So sometimes we'll have business holds. If students owe over a certain amount, there'll be a hold placed on there. And you'll go talk to the business office about that. We'll even have transcript holds. So sometimes we'll have transfer students who don't have a complete transcript. or even high school students who came here out of high school that applied before they graduated and their transcripts are complete. So a couple of those we put on just to stop them from enrolling, but all they have to do is go talk to the corresponding office, and on their account, it will tell them who to contact. And they just need to go contact the office and say, what do I need to do to get this fixed? And then they'll tell them from there. That way that hold can be taken off.
Yeah, I think that can be a little bit alarming when a student sees a hold sometimes, but it's really not supposed to be a barrier or anything. It's really just for our housekeeping so that way we can keep everything in line. For example, like on the transcript, we don't want you guys to be getting ready to walk and we're like, hey, we're missing this transcript. So just let us know if you have questions about anything like that, because we can help point you in the right direction. Okay, final thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but a new change this last year was our students have just a little more autonomy and control over enrolling themselves. Can they enroll themselves without seeing an advisor at all?
They don't have to physically come see an advisor. They can enroll themselves by picking their classes, and then they'll hit request review, and it sends us an email saying this student has requested approval for their classes. And then from there, we'll go through and making sure that they pick classes that we would recommend, or if they need to go in a certain order, like I touched on earlier, making sure that all aligns. But they cannot enroll themselves in classes without our approval. So we'll make sure that all their classes align, go towards their graduation, things like that.
Awesome. And there are some resources on the website, too, that help them see where they can pick courses that actually go towards their degree and things like that, right?
Yes.
Awesome. And if you need help finding those links to those resources, you can reach out to us, reach out to Brady, anyone in admissions, they'll help you find those things. Awesome. Okay, so I want to talk about another group of students that we haven't touched on yet, and I hope that we have some listening, but our concurrent students. So can you talk just a little bit about what concurrent enrollment is and explain that for someone who might not be familiar with that term?
Yeah. So concurrent students are high school students who are qualified by the state to take college classes. They get tuition paid for by the state. They just have to pay fees. So it's really good if students want to get a head start on college and not pay as much than they would after they graduate. I think typically our classes cost around the $500 range outside of high school, with the state paying tuition is only $97 per class. So it's a really good opportunity for students to get ahead of the game before they end up coming to us.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And one thing that I wanted to mention that we didn't mention on our incoming students is we are open admissions. So we take everyone, but for concurrent students, that's a little bit different, right? What does the admissions requirements look like for a concurrent student?
So the state requires that they have a 3.0 unweighted GPA or a 19 composite ACT, or the equivalent of PSAT. I don't know it off the top of my head, but either one of those two will qualify them for concurrent, and then they have to qualify for each class separately. So if they want to take an English class, we'll look at their English grades. Math, we'll look at math, and go from there, seeing what classes they want and if they qualify for it.
Awesome. And traditionally, it's juniors and seniors, right?
Yes.
Do you have any sophomores?
We do, but they have to be approved by the state. So they will apply, the counselor will send us approval, we send it to the state regents, and then they will come back to us and say they are approved to take classes or they are not able to.
Okay, awesome. That's all really good to know. So how can students and parents get started with this that are interested in enrolling in concurrent classes?
So one big thing that I think we do differently is we have one advisor that works with a specific school and does everything for that school. So if someone applies for a certain school that I do all of it. So I work the application, I enroll them, I contact their counselor, all that. So they can always call us and say, my student goes to this school, who would be the contact for that? And we'll walk them through it. They can always apply and then call us if they have any questions or just email us. But the application will say what high school they're from and get assigned to their advisor, and we'll tell them about that on there.
Awesome. And then one question that I've gotten a few times when I've been out recruiting is if a student takes concurrent classes somewhere else and they decide to come here as an incoming freshman or vice versa, they take concurrent classes with us at Redlands while in high school but decide to go somewhere else, do those transfer easily?
Yeah, typically as long as they're in state, I don't find an issue with them transferring at all unless it's like a science class, because some of those colleges will have different curriculums on what the science classes will look like. But most of your English, history, government, those classes that most concurrent students take, transfer pretty frequently and easily.
And you bring up a good point. What kind of classes should concurrent students be taking? I know sometimes they're really eager They're excited about a field that they're interested in. But what kind of classes do you recommend they take?
So typically I tell them to start off with history and government. Now it always depends on the high school because I have some that will not let students take English their junior year. I have some that are okay with it, or them taking a higher level class their junior year. So it depends on the high school too, but most of the time I tell them government, history, English, psychology, things like that. Those are good starter classes to get a feel for how you do at concurrent classes.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and from my experience, because I work with a lot of out-of-state students that come in on our livestock judging team in our ag program, and we've had a lot of students that have taken concurrent classes at other colleges and institutions and a lot of different states, and I've usually not had a problem with, those classes transferring in either. Like you said, sometimes the sciences, just because the rigor can be a little bit different. But yeah, so it's great to get a head start if you want to do that. So awesome. Okay, so I have got a couple of fun myth versus reality questions that I want to run by you. So the first myth I have that I want you to respond to is a student that might says, I still have all summer to figure out my fall classes.
I don't really think that would be the case. Most of the time, like I said earlier, if you come early, you get it done, and then when classes start in August, you're set to go. I really don't recommend waiting until summer, but we obviously understand if things happen over the summer, you need to change, like someone's transfer in, things like that. It's going to happen. But if you are here and returning, I would come to it as soon as enrollment opens.
Yeah. Yeah, we're happy to work with new students and enroll you as, up until that first week of classes. But the earlier, the better. And like you said, on different sections and times, and there's some students that prefer certain professors. And so, if you have those preferences, the earlier you can enroll, the better. Because one thing we haven't touched a ton about is, our in-person versus online. We probably have more online sections of classes than in-person, so the in-persons can fill up a little bit quicker. What's average class size look like for an in-person class?
I would say something like English or history, like the more common classes that most students are going to have to take. I would say 20 to 25. I don't typically see them getting full unless they're a science class, which, some majors have to have, so those will fill up fast. But most of your English, history, government, speech, I guess will fill up too. But those will have typically 20, 25 at the most, somewhere around there.
Awesome. Okay, so my next myth is advising is only for students who are struggling or are brand new.
I don't really think that's the case either. It definitely helps if we have brand new students who will come and get, have an appointment with us. But even returning students, I have some that are like, I just want to make sure I want to try to graduate, or am I taking the classes in the right order? I think advising is for everyone. Certain students can pick it up once they have that first talk through and can do it on their own. But we meet with all sorts of students, not just brand new students, for sure.
Awesome. Okay, so my last myth is college emails are really not that important.
I don't think that's true at all either. I wish more students check their emails sometimes. There's always good info about, your professor may email you. And I've had students who are like, I didn't see it. Events we're doing on campus, scholarships, all sorts of stuff is in there. So I really think students should check their email more often because there is more important info than what they typically think.
Yeah. And on the incoming freshmen right now, are you guys emailing personal emails that are on file, or are there college emails? Are those active yet?
Typically we're just doing the personal, because once they get accepted, their, Redlands email will populate in a couple of days, but typically we'll communicate through them, with them through their personal email as of right now.
Okay, awesome. So maybe check both.
Yeah, I think check both.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to ask you for some final advice before we wrap up our episode. If you could give students one piece of advice right now as enrollment opens, what would it be?
I think it's kind of the purpose of this whole episode is do it early. I think it'll set you up better down the road. You get to pick the classes you want at times. You get to make your own schedule in a sense, wherever you come early and have all the classes open you could pick from, online versus in person, certain days of the week, things like that. That's what I would recommend. Just come talk to us early, get it over with before the summer too, if you go home. And it's just a little bit easier on everyone involved, especially the student.
Awesome. Yeah, it's great to have that done and set up before you leave for the semester and enjoy your summer and then come back refreshed so you're not worrying about it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Brady, and for everything that you do for our students. I know We all really appreciate your office because we know it's busy and hectic and you guys have a big workload, but appreciate what you do. So for everyone listening, this is your sign to start preparing now, and your future self will be really thankful that you did. So if you have any questions and need help with your application, getting enrolled, you have questions, you can reach out to admissions. What's your guys' email contact?
I believe it's admissions@redlandscc.edu.
Awesome. And if you want to call them, you can look us up on our website, and then those links to make your advising appointment are also on our website. So you can find all those resources there, and we'll see you next time on the Redlands Rundown. See ya.